Bunnyman.
And I'm Crazy Susie.
And we are in the Eyes of Terror.
And now we're back with our 13 Nights of October.
I think this is number 7. I am so out of whack right now. Because we had that filler, Asylum of Darkness, which I released yesterday. And that was a filler one because, again, we had other things going on that we couldn't record.
Yes, and today is actually my birthday, and he tortured me by making me watch Goosebumps, so...
It was one of the better episodes.
We're doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, we spoiled it. What did we do? We did Goosebumps.
Yes.
And why are you on the houses at October?
Because I'm wishful thinking for better things. You can't make me do things I don't want to.
I beg to differ.
You can't make me do things I don't want to do.
So, yes.
Okay, so tonight's movie is Goosebumps. The Haunted Mask.
Viewers beware. You're in for a scare.
Sure, Maybe when I was 9, not. Part 1 and 2, because, why not?
It's a series of The Haunted Mask.
He thinks the voice helps. It doesn't. And this one, the first one, was filmed in Canada. They both were filmed in Canada. The first one came out in 1996. The director of the first one was Timothy Bond. The writers were Jose Rivera and R.L. Stine. The uncredited writers were Dan Angel and Billy Brown. The cast is Catherine Long, plays Carly Beth Caldwell. Yes, they refer to the girl as Carly Beth in the movie. So she is referred to as Carly Beth in the movie. It gets quite annoying. Colin Fox is Tall Thin Man. Not sure who that is, but...
He's a shopkeeper.
Okay, then why did they not just call him shopkeeper instead of Tall Thin Man?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry, the shopkeepers are not as well named like they are in Are You Afraid of the Dark? I mean, I think it would be awesome to have Mr. Sardo.
Yes, I do too. I liked him. Catherine Short is Sabrina Mason. Brenda Basnett is Kate Caldwell. Cody Jones is Noah Caldwell. George Kanemis is Steve Boswell, who I guess is also known as George Davis. They don't refer to him in the movie as George Davis. They refer to him as Steve. Amos Crawley is Chuck Green. And they break it down to Trick or Treater 1 and 2, Little Boy, Little Girl, Mom, and all these other people. I'm not going to get into those because really, nobody cares. The main characters are Carly, the shopkeeper, Sabrina. Noah is Carly's little brother. And Steve and Chuck are the main characters that you see throughout the movie that they really pay attention to. And those are the ones that we're going to mention because Trick or Treater 1 and 2, I don't really have a clue who the heck they are. So they're in there, but they're mentioned for like 2 seconds.
So if you don't know what this is Goosebumps. It used to be a book series when we were kids. And yes, we're old.
Yeah, when you get in your 30s, kids that are teenagers think you're old. So, but they'll get there one day.
Back in my day, we used to go to school naked up Mount Everest, both ways, naked. So,
Sure, okay.
So there was a book series by Scholastic, and then it was turned into a TV series that ran from 95, to 98?
Yes.
And it had 4 seasons to it, and then some specials.
Yeah, and this one is 45 minutes long. That's part 1 and part 2, and that's generally how they go. They're 2-parters. IMDb gives it the first one, an 8.5 out of 10. And considering how the other movies that we've done have went, that's a pretty high score.
Yeah.
That's not what I would have given it, but, way to go.
And then, so this is found on Netflix. It is Goosebumps. There's actually Goosebumps.
The whole series is on there.
Yeah, and this is found underneath the specials.
So the synopsis is, Carly Beth falls for every prank played on her. Soon, Halloween, she buys the scariest mask possible at an off-limits room at the old store. However, little does she know that the mask has a mind of its own.
Buy, steal, it's the same thing, right?
Well, she did buy it. She threw money at the man.
Okay.
She took it, she threw money at the man, she ran, he shut the door and put the close sign on. So she purchased it. She gave money for the product.
I guess I'll just do that next time I go to the grocery store and see what happens. I'm just gonna get a cart full of stuff and then run through the cashier, throw money at the cashier, and then just keep going because I purchased it.
I threw money at them. Doesn't that count?
Alright, so let's get into the movie. Carly Beth, wow, she is something else. She is, I mean, when we're saying every little scare, it's to the point where it's annoying. She jumps at everything.
Yeah, she is the epitome of jump scare.
Yeah, I mean,
Every little bitty thing scares her.
like if a twig fell off a tree behind her, she would freak out about that.
It's to the point to where Steve and Chuck, which are two boys that her and Sabrina go to school with, they all go to school together. Every day, they make it a point to scare her. At school, coming home from school. All these kids live in the same neighborhood. So every chance they get, they scare her. Because they know it's so easy.
Okay, so let's start your knockdown.
What are you trying to say? I write a novel?
Yeah, you do. I mean, just put R.L. Stein in front of your name and then just publish books for Scholastic and you'll be okay.
So,
did you know something? That R.L. Stein takes 3 weeks to write every Goosebumps book. I found that out. I thought that was
3 weeks?
3 weeks.
3 whole weeks?
3 whole weeks.
That's all?
That's it.
I'm not surprised. So the movie starts with the nostalgic Goosebumps theme music. We all know what that is, and if you don't, I wish I were you.
Okay, so you want to talk about that? I mean,
I'm gonna pinch you.
okay, so the music is not bad. It's just the effects of the time were just really corny.
Yeah.
And it was made for TV by some Canadians.
Gotta love those Canadians.
And so, you know,
Sorry.
they have the G floating over everything. One goes over the billboard, the G wilts the lady's hair in it, and then it goes over a dog and his eyes glow. There's, it starts out with R.L. Stein with his briefcase, and it opens up and stuff flies around. And as a kid, it was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was aimed for. It was kids, in the 90s. It was not meant for 30-year-olds in 2017. And
of course, they say the old phrase, viewers beware, you're in for a scare. And R.L. Stein introduces the program of the day, and it starts... And he obviously says the key phrase again. Viewers beware, you're in for a
But
scare.
even R.L. Stein, he's on the set and he's like, I really don't want to be here. He has that attitude and even that tone. I feel like he's like, I'm here.
He's like, hi, I'm R.L. Stein. Like he took a Valium before he went on the set or something.
I'm R.L. Stein. Where's my paycheck?
He's like doped up before he went on the set because it's the only way he can do this. Like he's got camera fright or something. Like they got to tape a piece of paper over the red light or something because he's freaked out by it. Anyway, okay, so it starts with two girls walking down the street and you're introduced to them. Their name, one is Carly and one is Sabrina.
Not the teenage witch.
No. Carly stops at a novelty shop.
And it just says novelty shop. It's not even like Steve's novelty shop or tall thin man's in a novelty shop. It's just welcome to generic novelty shop.
Yeah. But keep walking on, and Sabrina scares Carly Beth. Like I said, she's really easy to scare. So even her friend, Sabrina, gets in on it and scares her.
by just scratching her nose. She was just, and it scared her. Yeah.
And they walk on. They continue walking on because their destination is the pumpkin patch. So they're going towards the pumpkin patch. As they get to the pumpkin patch, two of the boys that they go to school are hiding in the pumpkin patch, and they jump up and scare her. And she gets upset because everybody likes to scare her because she's so easily to be scared.
And they're dressed as like two pumpkin people.
Yeah, they have like pumpkins on their heads, and they were like set up to scare her specifically. So Carly runs home without a pumpkin.
And Sabrina even brings up, like, why are we going to the pumpkin patch in the middle of the night?
I don't know.
Right before Halloween. And she was like, because that's the best time to pick them or something. I was like, okay.
And at home, Carly's mom shows her a plaster of Paris head she made of her. It's a sculpture head that's made to look just like Carly. Like it's, I don't really know how to explain it other than that, but it's
a white-faced, blonde-haired sculpture of her daughter.
It's the sculptured head of her to look just like her. It has her eyes, hair, everything. That her mother, spent a lot of time to look just like her. She thinks it's kind of creepy, but, thought it was sweet that I guess her mother took so much time to make something like that.
And she put it on top of the mantle, the fireplace.
Right. Well, she was a little bit creeped out because she thought she saw it grin at her. Anyway, her mother says she finished the duck costume she made for her because she had said she saw this duck costume in the store that she liked, so her mother decided that she would just make her one because obviously that would be cheaper than purchasing one from the store. So she goes upstairs and she looks at it and basically decides, well, she goes upstairs to look at it. She gets to the top of the stairs and hears a weird noise. When she goes to open her door, her brother jumps out at her with her duck costume on. She yells at him to take off her costume, and he's all quack, 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 quack.
Because, ducks are scary.
Yeah.
Duck costumes are especially scary.
Yeah, especially when your little brother's wearing them.
Yeah.
But you know how brothers can be. Anyway.
You know what you do to a little brother? Beat the crap out of him.
You would know. And of course, she just yells at him to tell him to take her costume off. And that's pretty much the end of that. And it goes on to the next day. So the next day at school, one of the boys who scared Carly Beth, comes over to her at lunch. It's Steve. And he comes over to apologize, to say, him and Chuck are very sorry for scaring her. And while she's got her attention diverted to Steve, Chuck comes up to the other side of her and puts a worm in her sandwich.
And this sort of goes back to another Goosebumps episode.
What was that?
Go eat worms.
Okay.
Because the guy that was obsessed with worms. Mm-hmm. There was worms in his sandwich at one point. I just thought that. I'm a Goosebump aficionado, I guess.
So while she's looking away, Chuck is putting a worm in her sandwich, and she says, "Well, thank you for apologizing." Whatever. She thinks they're doing the big thing and apologizing, and they go sit back down in their seat and wait.
But you even questioned this. It was sort of a weird, scene because the cafeteria was outside.
Yeah, well, they're Canadians. Go figure.
Yeah.
Just shook it up to they're in Canada. We don't know. They do things differently than we do here.
Yeah.
So they just sit back and wait because she starts eating her sandwich again. She takes a bite and she's, rolling the sandwich around in her mouth and she spits it out and she looks down and the worm is wiggling out of her sandwich and she's like, "Ah!" And everybody that's eating lunch just starts busting out laughing, including Chuck and Steve. And she's mortified. So she comes home crying. While she's crying, she rips apart her duck costume. Just rips it to pieces.
Yeah, there was just yellow feathers everywhere. And this is like a neon yellow duck costume.
Canary. It's canary yellow, yeah. So she decides that she's not going to be a duck for Halloween, obviously. There's no duck costume. She's going to go to the novelty shop and she's going to take all the money she has and she's going to buy the scariest mask she can find. She is going to be the scariest thing she can be for Halloween, and she's going to scare Steve and Chuck.
And I'll tell you, she's rolling in the dough. She had like all of like $30.
Yeah. She's been holding back birthday money and
Allowance?
she's been holding back allowance. She's been doing some serious chores, man. I don't know. She's been getting grandma money or something. I don't know. She's been doing a lot of slobbery grandma kisses or something. I don't know what she's been doing, but she's been talking to the right people. I don't know. She's been emptying out some grandma recliners or something. I don't know what she's been doing.
Granny recliners.
I don't know. That's what I used to do. My grandpa would say, "You can empty out my recliner," and he always had a ton of change in his pockets, and I would be like, "Okay."
Cha-ching, it's
Okay.
bake day!
Your recliner. Okay, so she goes in to the novelty store and starts looking around. And the owner says they're closed. She says, "Please, she needs a mask." He says, "Okay, 5 minutes." She looks in the mirror and looks at the masks and notices a crack in the door. It's a lab. She goes inside and finds a really cool mask. As she reaches out for it, the shop owner tells her she shouldn't be in here. "These masks, they're really great." He says they're not for sale. She said, "Well," he said, "they're not for sale because they're really horrible." And she said, "Well, that's great." He says, "I have a gorilla mask up front, made from real gorilla hair." She says, "I don't think Chuck and Steve will be scared by a gorilla."
But I mean, even before that, like when it first opens and she starts looking through, like you see the window, there's actually some like genuinely interesting masks the guy had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he had some pretty interesting ones. So she takes the mask and throws the money at the shop owner and runs out the door.
she was making it rain.
Yeah. She dresses up at home, and her brother is petrified by the mask and makes her take it off, which she barely gets it off. She puts her mask back on and goes out. What she does too, she has a broom, just the handle, and she takes that porcelain head that her mother had made, that ceramic head of her, and puts it at the end of the broom handle like it's her head on a stick. And she puts like a
red sheet.
a bandana or something around it, like a scarf around it.
So I mean, I think
And she carries that around with her. Like, this is what my head used to be like, and this is what my head's like now.
Yeah. So it was. I think this mask, the design of the mask was a very interesting design, very angular, and it was very creepy. And I don't know if you ever saw the artwork for the book, but it's a complete deviation of what they had in the show compared to what the original idea was for the haunted mask. I think it was actually a really cool, a better upgrade in the show than what the cover art was.
She puts the mask back on and goes out to scare people. She goes to look for Chuck and Steve. She goes by Sabrina's. Sabrina has a ton of questions about Carly Beth's mask and asks her to take it off. "What is it made of? It feels warm and like real skin." That really freaks Sabrina out, that she touches it and it feels like actual skin. Carly grabs and shakes Sabrina like really hard, and she is not liking the new side of Carly. Sabrina isn't. She's not digging this kind of off the rails side of her.
And it's not really like, I don't know, the personality is a dick personality. It's just,
Right.
I mean, the concept of scare in this is taking people's bags and being really aggressive with them, like, and running at them, like they're gonna hit each other, like they're gonna be hit.
And she's knocking on people's doors and being rude to the people that answer, to the point to where they're threatening to call the cops on her.
Oh, you know what? I know what it is. I know why it's so scary. Because they're Canadians. That behavior is so abnormal in Canada that it would be scary.
There's no jerks in Canada.
I'm assuming at that point, no. So it's Canadian Fear.
Steve and Chuck take their full candy bags into the cemetery.
Yeah, because you know the best place to eat candy at is the cemetery.
Carly terrorizes the kids in the neighborhood. Steve and Chuck go through their candy on the top of a headstone and scare each other. Carly Beth finally finds Steve and Chuck. The masked creature makes the boys apologize to the head of Carly on a stick, and it digs a hole and buries the head. The boys take this opportunity to run away. As Carly goes back to town, Sabrina finds her and asks what happened. She's been looking for her. She wants to go home. They go home. Carly tries to remove the mask, and there's no line where the mask starts and she ends. And she looks in the mirror and notices the eyes are different than hers.
They're not hers. They're not my eyes. Do.
Yeah. She runs back to the novelty shop and begs for the owner to remove the mask. He says the mask cannot be removed. He tells her it's not a mask, it's a face. He says they used to be beautiful, but one day they turned ugly.
Do.
He made these faces to hide behind, or perhaps I should show you what's behind my face, so you will appreciate your face. Then the other faces started floating and coming at her. He told her to run. She goes to the graveyard and digs up the head of herself, and the other faces retreated, and the mask came off. Carly Beth went home. Carly Beth's brother begged her to take her mask off, referring to her real face. She tells Noah not to put on the mask. Her mother asked why did she not put on the duck costume, and did she not trick or treat with Sabrina, because she called twice. Then Noah comes into the room with the mask on, and the story ends.
So I didn't know if you noticed this or not, but as the behavior progressed, the mask got wetter and wet. Like it started to sweat and glisten. I thought that was pretty cool. It looked like the mouth was supposed to move too, but it didn't quite do it. You know, like
it looked like the teeth kind of moved a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, and then the really cool effect at that time, it amazed me. I remember that is when Carly was like, "Help me," when it spoke through the head on the pedestal thing, and trying to say because the part of the removal of the mask is to find a symbol of love. Mm-hmm. So the symbol of love and this one was the head that
the sculpture that her mother had made.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of time to make that.
Yeah.
You only spend a lot of time on things for people that mean a lot to you, so.
So did you want to rate this one, and then we'll rate the other one, and then together we'll rate all of them, or do you just want to do a big rating at the end?
Are we going to do them both separately or together?
We're doing them together.
Well, then we'll rate them both together.
Okay. Let's go into The Haunted Mask 2.
The Haunted Mask 2 was directed by William Fott, and it was also written by the same people, so there's no point in me mentioning that. It was filmed in Toronto and Ontario, Canada in October 29th of 1996. That's really the only difference. IMDb gave it a score of 7.7 out of 10, which is a little bit lower than the other, and the running time is pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's 22 minutes for each, so this is 2 episodes like the last one.
And it starts again with the nostalgic Goosebumps theme music. You can't help yourself. And again it says, "Viewers beware, you're in for a scare." And then R.L. Stein comes in and introduces the story.
Oh, and the last one we forgot to mention. At the end, R.L. Stein comes back at the end of it and goes, "So what did you think, Mom and Dad?" Again, he was like, "Hi, I'm R.L. Stein. Where's my paycheck?" He's like, "What did you think, Mom and Dad? Where's my paycheck?" And it pans to the parents with the hair stuck up and like frozen.
So this time, Sabrina and Carly Beth are walking down the street and they scare Chuck and Steve, who are hiding behind a tree. Carly just happens to see one of them behind the tree, and so they decide to get them before the boys get them. Steve takes Carly's sculpture and will not give it back until she tells him what she did with the mask. Sabrina asks, "So what did you do with the mask anyway?" as they walk away.
Well, okay, so I have established some sort of a timeline. So this is a year after
Yes, this is Hallows Eve.
the year
Yeah.
the year after
Year after.
the original haunted mask happened.
Yes.
So it's sort of weird for me to think that. So she's carrying around the sculpture now all the time, I'm assuming? Like, she's just like... And Sabrina said, like, wait, what, you're going to go as, like, a two-headed person or something like that. She made sort of, like, a joke about it. So, I'm guessing that she...
So, Sabrina asks, "So, what did you do with it anyway?" as they walk away. She says she buried it. Next, you see the store owner burning the faces. It was just as he feared. Halloween brought the face back to him.
So he's burning the mask, and he's like, I only have so much time left. It's almost Halloween. I'm like, so you couldn't burn these around, I don't know, Thanksgiving, Christmas? Why did you have to do it the day
Then there would be
before?
no show.
I guess.
He wakes up wearing it.
He wakes up wearing the mask. Because the mask sort of like attacks him and absorbs
It hunts him down and then he sucks to him.
Yeah.
Chuck and Steve are walking home after school and talking about their Halloween plans and see the shop owner. Then run over to try to find him. Then go over to the novelty shop. They go inside. Steve goes into the basement and looks through boxes. Chuck is waiting at the door. He is reluctant to go inside. Steve finds a mask and puts it in his bag and runs home with it. Steve's mom brings up his pirate costume. Carly Beth puts on her duck costume and heads over to Sabrina's house. They go trick-or-treating together and see Chuck. Steve heads to Chuck's house. He puts the mask on when he leaves. He sees Chuck, so he decides to scare him.
So, the pirate costume is a generic pirate costume you get at your local store.
Yeah, that his mother sewed some kind of stuffed parrot onto the shoulder of.
Because last year, the other guy had a parrot and he didn't.
Yeah.
So...
Steve starts terrorizing the kids in the neighborhood and steals their candy. Steve feels Chuck to go home. He doesn't want to see his crybaby face. Chuck goes to Carly and Sabrina and tells them how Steve is acting. Steve falls over and has trouble breathing. Steve uses a stick to steady himself and walk. He asks some of the kids to help him take off his mask. They say, "That's no mask, mister. That's your face."
And supposedly he has a smell, and everybody's saying, oh, like, look at the spiders. But he was chasing the kids, and he was like, I need energy. Like, all of a sudden he becomes like an old, feeble man. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I need energy. So he starts eating all this candy to give him energy. And I'm sort of like, I need a Red Bull. Which we are not sponsored by Red Bull.
He's stumbling around asking for help. The group of friends go to the shop. Sabrina sees a shadow. Carly feels something isn't quite right while she's there. They go in through the back door. Chuck says, I bet Steve is at home, kicked back, counting his candy. The shopkeeper is possessed by the mask that once had a hold of Carly. It tells Steve to get the ceramic head of Carly and bring it to him in the cemetery, or you will remain an old man. Do this by midnight, not a second after. Sabrina, Carly, and Chuck walk through the town calling out for Steve. They go to the cemetery, which is the only other place they haven't looked. The creature asks if he brought it. Yes, he says. Smash it, it says. Why? So Carly will have no protection. So Steve is reluctant to do that. So he says, I'll fill you full of spiders, and gives all these other threats about what he'll do. So he goes ahead and smashes it because I guess the threats are just too much.
It's sort of weird because at this time too, Carly is like, I can feel there's something wrong.
So the mask comes off the store owner's face and starts flying through the air at Carly, saying she will forever see through her eyes. The store owner says Steve freed him because Steve when the mask came off, Steve jumped in the way from the mask trying to directly go to Carly. So that act of love freed himself from the mask. Steve freed Steve from the mask. If that makes any sense. Halloween brought the mask to life. They all go to Steve's house. Carly and Sabrina's parents say they will come and get them. Chuck stays over. Carly puts the mask into the fire. But no one watches to make sure that they burn. They don't burn, and the fire goes out. The mask is fine.
It reinflates.
It reinflates and gets out of the fire. The dog takes it outside and buries it.
So in the series, there is a third book in the Goosebumps series and a standalone on top of it.
Yeah, so in the book series, there are 4 to the Mask series.
Well,
there's Mask 1, 2, and 3, and there's another. It's a standalone.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually fall into the series, but technically there's 4.
I could assume that at some point the mask is destroyed and everybody lives happily ever after and then grow up to be, your typical Canadian adults.
Right. Well, yeah, eventually they have to grow up, so.
So that's the end of both of these. So what would you rate it overall as?
I don't think you want to know.
There you go. There's got to be people who listen to us that hate Goosebumps as much as you do.
I don't hate it. I'm an adult now, and I watched it when I was a kid, and I thought it was awesome when I was a kid, but I'm a grown-up now, so.
And I think that's the joy behind.
Now, as an adult, I think it's kind of lame, but I loved it when I was a kid.
Well, but see, to me, it's like that's the point of why I watch it. It's sort of like you go back to a time of innocence, not as much as it's
now,
part
as
of our.
an adult, I think it's kind of corny and goofy.
Oh, it is. I mean, it is horribly corny. I mean, all the special effects are so outdated. But without Goosebumps, we wouldn't be who we are today. You and me wouldn't. We wouldn't have had the horror. That was most kids' exposure to horror was the Goosebumps series. That it was in our generation of 30.
I don't know. I was watching Hellraiser and stuff when I was little, but my mother pretty much let me watch what I wanted to. So.
I mean, I just remember that was my first exposure to horror was the book series and then the TV series.
I watched the book. Yeah, I read the books.
So, I mean, to me, it's a nostalgia thing. It's a.
I'll be nice. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. How's that? Well, no, we do out of 5. Yeah. So I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
I give it a 3. I give both of them a 3.5 out of 5. So the first one, Haunted Mask, is far superior to the second, in my opinion.
Why do you say that?
Well, because it sets up a lot of stuff, and it doesn't have. To me, like Haunted Mask number 2, how scary is a winded old man?
It's supposed to make you question everything, the second one, because he puts on the mask 3 times. And remember, the shop owner said it was okay, you only put it on twice, so you have hope.
Yeah.
There's a chance that
you
have a chance of getting it off, but he puts it on 3 times, so there's no chance of him ever getting it off. But I guess
the only time that it is so she had the symbol of love. And then I guess he selflessly, the only thing is a selfless sacrifice would be the best way to put it. So that's what broke the spell or whatever.
But he said there was no chance.
I get the continuity error there, okay? But I just think that what killed it for me, for the second one, Haunted Mask number 2, is that all of a sudden she's hooked up to the Force. she could feel when there's a disturbance, when there's, it's just a lot
That's
of...
because the mask became a part of her and she a part of it.
I don't know, but it sort of was weird that was that. But I did like that they brought back the characters. They didn't try to replace them.
Right.
I mean, and at least it continued the storyline, so you sort of know the origins of it. I mean, for a kid's book.
Yeah.
And the origins of them.
They basically just picked up where they left off, so that was good.
I mean, for Halloween, if you have young kids, I mean, or just want to feel nostalgia, that's why I watch. It's just nostalgia reasons. I mean, it's one of those things that I watch every year for Halloween that Crazy Susie gets really pissed off at me for watching.
I don't get pissed off. It's not something I enjoy watching.
But it gives me into that spirit. It's just...
I'm not 12 years old, or... Actually, I think I was younger than 12 when I watched it. It's just not something that I enjoy watching.
But, I mean, to each their own.
But I love Nightmare Before Christmas, and that's not something you really...
No, I really enjoy it. I'm not fanatical.
I could watch it a dozen times a year, and you're like, after twice, you're like, haven't we already done this? We've done this. We've done this? We're good. We're good, right?
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, this is my Rudolph. Goosebumps is my Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
You're like, we're good, right? We've done this. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good, right? Right? We're good, right? And I'm like, nope. And you're like...
The two series you cannot stand me watching are Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark? I can handle a little bit more than Goosebumps.
Well, that's a whole... We could do a terror talk about the superiority of Are You Afraid of the Dark compared to Goosebumps.
And then you want to talk about throwing creamer into a fire.
Okay. But anyway, so...
You
But
get ideas.
but out of all of their specials and out of all of the TV series that was shot, I think The Haunted Mask was both, at that time and at this time, the most remembered one. There was so much gear. I was just looking it up. There's so much gear out there for The Haunted Mask. Still, I think it was most well received out of everything that he's done. Now, this is not my favorite one, the Goosebumps series. My favorite one is Monsterland. It's a good kids.
I don't remember really watching much of the TV show. I remember reading the books.
I wish I owned all the books still. I mean, I had several of them. I don't have any of them anymore. I don't think, or one or two. I don't know. So, this is it. We'll spook you later.
Thanks, bye.